Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Johannes Kuhlmann. I work for the World Meteorological Organization, and I am very happy to guide you through today's event on the Water and Climate Coalition and on what we want together to achieve in terms of making an impact in integrating the water and climate agendas for future sustainable development and for better resilience in our member states. I have the honor to welcome here on the stage the Honorable President János Ader from Hungary, Mari Pangestu, Managing Director of the World Bank for Partnerships and Development Policies, and Secretary General Professor Petri Talas from the World Meteorological Organization. This event will run in two parts. We will have this first part with the three speakers here and with the Honorable President of Tajikistan, Mr. Emomali Rahmon, who will give a video message because he cannot be here physically. In the second part, we will have some more speakers that I will introduce then, who will discuss a bit more about the panel and present the way to the 2023 conference in New York, the midterm review of the water decade, and how we can integrate the climate and the water agendas until then. So first of all, I would like to give the floor to the President of Hungary, Mr. János Ader. Please address the audience.
Először is szeretném megköszönni a lehetőséget, hogy az anyanyelvemen fogok beszélni, és hogyha minden igaz, addig, amíg önök egyrészt megtalálják a megfelelő készüléket, és utána megtalálják a megfelelő csatornát, és akkor kérnék egy visszajelzést, hogy működik-e a tolmácsolás, tehát hallják-e az angolt. Csaba? Addig nem kezdem el. Zoltán valamit mondjon közben, hogy teszteljük, hogy átmegy a hang. Oké. No tehát, sikerült a technikai feltételeket biztosítani. Megvan a hang. Azt mégse kérhetem önöktől, hogy ilyen rövid idő alatt tanuljanak meg magyarul. Nos, tisztelt Hölgyeim és Uraim! Akik itt a teremben összegyűltek, pontosan tudják, hogy Glasgow-ba azért gyűltünk össze, és azért kezdődött a tegnapi konferencia, hogy a légkör szén-dioxid szintjének csökkentéséről beszéljünk. Mi most itt azért kérjük az önök figyelmét, az önök és a sajtó figyelmét, hogy a klímaválság és a vízválság összefüggéseiről szóljunk. Miért? A tudósok között konszenzus van abban, hogy a klímaválság hatásainak 80%-át a vízen keresztül érzékeljük, érezzük, tehát a klímaválság és a vízválság kérdései nem csak, hogy összefüggenek, de egymás nélkül megoldani, kezelni ezeket nem tudjuk. Milyen jelenségeket láthatunk, milyen jelenségeknek lehettünk szemtanúi, akár csak az elmúlt hetekben. És ez sajnos már egy tendencia. A hidrológiai ciklusnak a megváltozása. Egyre szélsőségesebb időjárási eseményeknek lehetünk tanúi. Gondoljanak csak éppen az elmúlt napokban Szicíliában lezúdult hatalmas mennyiségű esőre. Láthatunk kiszáradó folyókat, ugyanakkor folyóvá változó utcákat. Látjuk a gleccserek eltűnését, és tapasztalhatjuk a tenger vízszint emelkedését, amiről mindenki tudja, hogy az elmúlt 10 000 esztendőben, amióta a civilizáció megjelent és megerősödött a Földön az emberi civilizáció, azóta az emberiség nagy része a tengerpartok, folyópartok mellé települt, tehát a tengervízszint emelkedése városainkat és a tengerpartok mentén lévő mezőgazdasági területeinket is fenyegeti. Néhány esztendővel ezelőtt, ezt is tudják önök pontosan, az ENSZ elfogadott 17 fenntartható fejlődési célt. Ha a vízválság kérdését nem tudjuk megoldani, akkor a 17 fenntartható fejlődési cél mindegyike veszélybe kerül, ellehetetlenül. Ezért is fontos tehát, hogy erről a kérdésről beszéljünk. A cselekvést elősegítendő, hiszen beszédből és konferenciából már volt sok témában is, de a cselekvést elősegítendő megalakult a víz- és klímaügyi koalíció és a víz- és klímaügyi vezető testület. Ezúttal is szeretnék köszönetet mondani Petteri Tálasz főtitkár úrnak, a Meteorológiai Világszervezet főtitkárának, aki ebben oroszlán részt vállalt, kezdeményező szerepet vállalt, hogy egyáltalán ez a gondolat, ez sokak számára elfogadható és támogatható, és legyen, és ez a szervezet ez létrejöjjön. Mire van szükség a cselekvéshez? Hát természetesen pénzre, innovációra, a jó példák bemutatására, szemléletváltásra, alkalmazkodásra, és nem utolsó sorban megfelelő mennyiségű és jól kezelhető adatra. Inkább csak erről fogok most beszélni az idő rövidsége miatt. Mi a célja ennek a testületnek? Az első. 2025-re egy közös vízügyi és klímavédelmi adat- és információs portált szeretnénk létrehozni. Mindannyian tapasztaltuk, hogy nagyon sok adat áll rendelkezésünkre. De ezeknek az adatoknak az integrált kezelése és mindenki számára való hozzáférhetővé tétele ma még komoly probléma. Tehát az első számú cél, hogy ezeket az adatokat integráltan kezeljük, és mindenki számára, politikusok, gazdasági szereplők, érdekképviseleti szervezetek, helyi közösségek számára, vagy egyszerű közemberek számára, gazdálkodók számára is hozzáférhetővé tegyük. A második, egy globális vízügyi megfigyelő rendszer kiépítése 2030-ra. Ez a második célunk. Hadd mondjak erre önöknek néhány példát, hogy plastikussá tegyem, hogy mi az, ami miatt ezekre az adatokra szükségünk van. Például, hogyha egy asszály monitoring rendszert telepítünk bizonyos országokba, akkor pontos képet tudunk kapni, és hogyha hosszú évekre visszamenőleg rendelkezünk megfelelő adatokkal, akkor pontos képet tudunk kapni arról, hogy milyen termékszerkezet váltásra van szükség például az ott élő gazdák szempontjából. Hogyha pontosan mérjük a talajvízszint csökkenését, mint ahogy jó néhány helyen ez drámai mértékű talajvízszint csökkenést látunk, és azt is tudjuk egyébként, azt is tudjuk mérni, hogy hogyan pótolja a természet, milyen tempóban pótolja a természet majd a veszteségeket, akkor pontosan tudjuk, hogy hogyan lehet azon a területen hosszú távon mezőgazdasági művelést tervezni és folytatni, és mit kell tenni annak érdekében, hogy a gazdák ne menjenek néhány éven vagy évtizeden belül tönkre. Ugyanígy, hogyha különböző vízbázisok, víztesteknek a szennyezéséről megfelelő adatokkal rendelkezünk, és a tisztítás hatékonyságának mértékéről megint csak jó néhány olyan információhoz jutunk, ami megkönnyíti a későbbi munkánkat, nem utolsó sorban megkönnyíti az ott élőknek az alkalmazkodását. A harmadik, szükség van a mi megítélésünk szerint egy szemléletváltásra, méghozzá a finanszírozásban. Ha most önök maguk elé képzelnek egy nagy folyót, bármelyiket, a Föld bármely pontján, és azt látják, hogy ez a folyó ez egyre rakoncátlanabb, egyre többször dönt meg korábbi árvízi rekordokat a folyó vízállása, akkor logikus következtetés, hogy itt gátakat kell építeni, illetve szükségtározókat kell építeni. De ha csak a szükségtározó megépítését önmagában nézem, ez sosem fog megtérülni, ez sosem lesz egy nyereséges, megtérülő beruházás. Ha viszont nézem a lehetséges károkat, ha nézem azokat az esetleges társadalmi, gazdasági, környezeti hatásokat, amit egy-egy extra árvíz okozhat, akkor már egészen más a pénzügyi kalkulációnak a mikéntje. Ezt a közgazdászok ugye úgy szokták hívni, hogy szükségünk van az úgynevezett externáliák beszámítására, a környezeti, társadalmi, gazdasági hatások mérlegelésére. Szeretném emlékeztetni önöket William Nordhausra, aki közgazdasági Nobel-díjat kapott, és a Nobel-díj átadásakor, átvételekor a következőt mondta: ha ezeket az úgynevezett externáliákat nem számítjuk be, figyelmen kívül hagyjuk, akkor azért viszonylag rövid távon súlyos, nagyon súlyos társadalmi árat kell majd fizetnünk. Tehát egészen nyilvánvaló, a mi számunkra legalábbis nyilvánvaló, hogy egy szemléletváltásra van szükség a finanszírozásban. A vízválság, akár a fenyegető sok víz, akár az asszályok tekintetében is, azokra a beruházásokra, amikre gondolunk, és amiket meg kell csinálni, meg kell építeni, azoknál finanszírozásban egy komoly szemléletváltásra van szükségünk. A negyedik téma a világ, az a úgynevezett közös vízgyűjtő területeknek a problematikája. A laikusok nem nagyon tudják, hogy a világ népességének 90%-a él olyan országban, amelynek másokkal megosztott vízgyűjtője van. Azt sem nagyon szoktuk tudni, vagy szokták tudni, hogy ezen az úgynevezett osztott vízgyűjtők 60%-án nincs érdemi megállapodás az egyes országok között a vízkészlet használatáról. Laikusként is könnyű belátni, hogy ez milyen politikai konfliktusok forrása lehet a jövőben. Már most is, de a jövőben még inkább, amikor is egyre szélsőségesebb időjárás és egyre kisebb egyfőre eső vízkészlettel kell számolnunk. Mi a célunk? A célunk, hogy az együttműködésben rejlő előnyöket, ott, ahol az együttműködés már megvalósult, ezeket a jó példákat bemutassuk azon országok számára, ahol még ez a megállapodás várat magára, és világossá tegyük, hogy az adaptáció és a mitigáció e tekintetben, hogy idegen szavakat is használjak, közös társadalmi, gazdasági előnyeit ki tudják és ki is kell használnia majd az érintetteknek. Az ötödik téma az olvadó gleccsereknek a problémája, erről most részletesen nem beszélek, mert Tadzsikisztán elnöke majd egy videóüzenetben el fogja mondani az ő drámai hangú észrevételeit a tekintetben, mint az egyik ország képviselője, amelyik ezt elszenvedi. A célunk az, utolsó célunk, hogy 2023-ban az ENSZ főtitkár Antonio Guterres szervezésében, az ENSZ keretében egy vízügyi konferencia, egy nagyszabású vízügyi konferenciát szeretnénk tartani. Közel 50 esztendeje nem volt erre példa. És úgy gondoljuk, hogy bizony elérkezett az idő a cselekvésre, és nincsen újabb 50 évünk arra, hogy megfelelő döntéseket hozzunk. Hogy ez mennyire így van, egy magyar származású, de Amerikában dolgozó, tanító, kutatónak, Barabási Albert Lászlónak a mondását szeretném az önök figyelmébe ajánlani, aki a hálózatelméletről lett egyébként híres, és Bostonban tanít. Ő azt mondta az időről, 50 év, van-e még 50 évünk, hogy az idő a legbecsesebb, meg nem újuló erőforrásunk. Hát gazdálkodjunk jól vele. Köszönöm szépen a figyelmüket.
Thank you very much, János Áder, President of Hungary. I think you have made it clear we don't have 50 years. Probably most of us in the room don't have 50 years. We need to change this now. We need to act now, and it is very clear from your message. And thank you for really spearheading with us this coalition. I think we need all the different aspects and people that we need to cover in this together, and thanks for your intervention today. With that, I would like to ask our technicians, can you please bring up the video message from the Honorable President of the Republic of Tajikistan to the screen. I will play it now. He will address the audience online because he cannot make it today.
Distinguished members of the high-level panel, Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, I first of all would like to thank the World Meteorological Organization for organizing today's meeting. As you know, water and climate are inextricably linked, as climate change affects our lives and our economy, mainly through water resources. Our glaciers are melting rapidly, and to date more than 1,000 of Tajikistan 14,000 glaciers have completely melted. Over the past few decades, the total volume of glaciers in our country, which make up more than 60% of the water resources of Central Asian region, has decreased by almost a third. At the first meeting of the high-level panel, I gave examples of glacier melting in Tajikistan and other parts of the world. Given the serious consequences of continuing this process, we previously proposed proclaiming 2025 as the International Year for Glaciers Preservation and setting a date for World Glaciers Day. I have also previously called for the creation of the International Fund for Glaciers Preservation. The Republic of Tajikistan is actively promoting these initiatives at different levels, and we do strongly believe that the members of the Water and Climate Coalition will also give their support. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2018 we together laid a solid foundation for the advancement of the Dushanbe water process and the framework of the International Conference on the International Decade for Action, Water for Sustainable Development 2018-2028. Within the framework of this event, participants actively deliberated on various aspects of water agenda on the way towards sustainable development. Next year, on the Dushanbe water process, we intend to host the International Conference on Water Decade in cooperation with the United Nations and other partner countries. This time, the conference will review the issues of the link between water resources and climate. The Dushanbe conference will be pivotal in the preparatory process for the United Nations Conference on the midterm review of the implementation of the Water Decade in 2023 in New York, co-chaired by Tajikistan and the Netherlands. Tajikistan will make every effort to ensure that the link between water and climate is also clearly expressed in the agenda of the UN conference. Dear participants, in recent decades we have more often seen a significant change in the climate cycle in our region. Our winters have become colder and longer, and our summers have become hotter and drier. In this regard, the region is experiencing a significant increase in the demand for electricity and water resources. In addition, the hydrological cycle is changing, which leads to changes in river flow in the region, both in volume and in time. At the same time, the existing capacities in the region, both in terms of generating electricity and regulating water resources, are not able to address the growing needs of the population and the economy. For example, last summer, Tajikistan was forced to temporarily suspend electricity export to neighboring countries. At the same time, countries in the region experienced water shortages at the height of the irrigation season. The early, cold and long winter of that year brought us new challenges. The region has faced a severe drought that year, which has caused massive livestock deaths and crop losses in some countries in the region. That is why, under our chairmanship in the International Fund for Saving the Aral Sea, we give utmost attention to the agenda of the climate change impact. In this context, we intend to continue our efforts to draw the attention of the countries of the region and the international community to more actions and take urgent measures to address climate change and eliminate its impact. Ladies and gentlemen, we are convinced that in today's condition it is Nexus approach that can lay a solid ground to addressing daily challenges, develop green economy and facilitate sustainable development. We reaffirm our commitment to this process and make added efforts to ensure that an integrated approach to addressing water and climate challenges is prioritized. I'm confident that our high-level panel will make a further contribution to this process for the further consolidation of the efforts of the international community and particularly of political leaders for more actions and taking adequate measures. I wish you every success and good luck along the way. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, we thank the President of the Republic of Tajikistan. I think it is clear water from ice especially, but also from snow for us and for the coming 10, 20, 30 generations is really a non-renewable resource in the long run. So we will not be able to use this water once it's gone, once it's unfrozen and it has run off into the oceans. It's a net zero loss in our water availability. And at the moment we have 80% of our water resources, of our accessible water resources on this planet in the cryospheres. That's frozen water. That's going to be different. This is maybe a process that has different timescales, but it is a fact and we need to realize this fact. I think the next speaker in our event here is our Secretary General, Petri Talas. He will present some slides, and he will very likely also speak about the impacts that we will face. Petri Talas, the floor is yours. Can we have the slides up, please?
Dear President Ader, dear Minister Zoim Zoda, dear colleague Mari Pangestu, it's a pleasure to address you all. And since I have a scientific background, I will show you some slides to demonstrate that the things that the President's already mentioned, they are also happening in real atmosphere. So I will show you some slides, and let me see how it goes.
Can we have the slides on the screen?
Doesn't follow this.
Should,
So can we get the slides up, please?
Apologies, the technician will be with you in one moment.
They were shown already before. No, they're there. Okay, great. Okay, sorry for those technical problems. First of all, I would like to show you one slide from the most recent IPCC report, which was published in August, and here you can see what is supposed to happen to the global rainfall amounts, and these brownish colors indicate the decrease of rainfall, and the reddish, the bluish and greenish colors indicate increases of rainfall amounts. And the more extreme we will have, the higher the temperature change is going to be. We have 1.5 on the left and 4 degrees on the right-hand side. And you can see that there are areas which are going to get drier. For example, Amazonian region that we just reported recently, that it has become a source of carbon instead of a sink of carbon, and this drying is partly a local feature, and it's partly caused by this global climate change. And also Mediterranean region is going to get drier, southern Africa and some parts of Australia, and also some parts of Eastern Asia, and that's bad news for the global food production. And there are also areas which are going to see more rainfall. For example, in Sahara region, we expect to see increase of the rainfall amounts, and also at the high latitudes in both hemispheres. And if we go to soil moisture, which is actually driving the conditions for vegetation and agriculture much better, you can see that this image is even more dramatic. In both Americas, we expect to see drier soils, and that's because of changes in the rainfall patterns and also higher temperatures with higher evaporation. And also this Mediterranean region is larger, and also in Eastern Asia and Australia, we have lots of decrease in soil moisture. That's bad news for the global agriculture and well-being in those regions. And the presidents were already talking about the melting of the glaciers, and here you can see a trend for the past 70 years, what's happening to the mass loss of glaciers, and it's clear that we have a boost in the melting during the recent 20 years, and that's bad news. And unfortunately, this negative trend will continue for the coming hundreds of years, because we already have reached such a high level of carbon dioxide. We could seize this negative trend in weather features, temperature increase and changes in the precipitation patterns, but this melting of snow and ice globally will continue because of this already high level of carbon dioxide. And since 2015, we have seen over 1 meter of water equivalent loss of glaciers, and this is happening worldwide. This covers more than 30 glaciers worldwide. And what is striking when it comes to sea level rise is that we have two major glaciers which are really contributing to the sea level rise. One is in Greenland, and if we would melt the whole mass, we would see 7 meters sea level rise. But at Antarctica, we have even larger glacier, and that would contribute up to 60 meters of sea level rise if we would melt it totally, which is not likely to happen. But here's a trend from the Antarctic glacier, and you can see that it has started melting, and this is one of the drivers in the long-term sea level evolution. We have started losing water resources already during the past 20 years, and here you can see areas worldwide, and there's a good reason why President of Tajikistan was expressing his concerns. In Central Asia, there's lots of color, which is coming from the fact that glaciers are melting, and the same is true for northern parts of India and Nepal region, and also in the southern part of South America, and also in Alaska. This is very much related to the glacier melting. But we have also lost it because of changes of rainfall patterns and also higher evaporation. And if you look at the global hotspots concerning water stress, the two most striking areas are in Asia, where we have a population of the order of 2 billion people who are going to face water stress. They are already facing it, but they will face it even more during the coming decades, and that's India region and also Eastern Asia region. So India and China, for example, they are very sensitive to this change. Central Asia, where Tajikistan is located, but also Mediterranean region and Middle East are sensitive, and you can see also Africa and North America regions there. And we have a population at risk, and we have to make sure that we have a proper early warning services in place, and this river flooding case, we have about half of the countries, or less than half of the countries, who have proper early warning services in place. In case of flash floods, the situation is even worse, and the worst situation is related to the drought warnings. And this is one of the challenges that we are having as WMO, and this is also very important for climate adaptation, and this is one of the challenges when it comes to climate adaptation. And that's a motivate. Those images have been motivating us to build this water climate coalition, and we are very grateful for President Ader that he decided to join, and also that the President of Tajikistan decided to join. And it's a subset of UN water, and we have around 10 UN agencies who are behind this consortium, and we are working at the political level, as we have the presidents on board, and then we are working at the expert level, and our desire is to make a concrete change to this situation that we are facing. Here we have the coalition of leaders, and we are grateful that Mari Pangestu just decided to join us, and thanks for coming on board. And from WMO's side, we have 4 practical commitments. We are supposed to improve the monitoring systems for hydrology, and then we are supposed to promote free data exchange and access, and by building one UN data portal. We are planning to organize training events, and also we will provide scientific information on the impact of climate change on water availability. And you can see perhaps Johannes Kuhlmann giving a lecture here in the lower part of this image. And these are the key messages that I would like to pass to you. Every bit of warming matters, and this is having a clear impact on the water resources, and by being successful in mitigation, we could save millions of equivalent of money, but also we could save human lives. And we can mitigate this crisis, and we could help in not facing the worst case scenario. And we would like to integrate the water and climate monitoring information systems to think of more this kind of Earth system instead of weather, climate, and water components as separate items. And we are also happy to promote peaceful cooperation between countries. This is a scientific and technical enterprise, and we would like to mitigate these political tensions that also exist between some countries. With these words, thanks for listening to this, and I hope that you are convinced that we are doing the right thing in this water climate coalition. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General. It is now my pleasure to announce the new member of the Water and Climate Leaders panel. So we have heads of states, we have ministers in our panel, we have also representatives from the private sector and from youth. And as of really only 10 days ago, World Bank has also decided to join this endeavor, and it is my pleasure to give the floor to Mari Pangestu, who is the Managing Director for Partnerships and Development Policies. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to join this coalition as the new member, because as we have just heard, the fight against climate change, water is the great connector. I mean, the 80% number was mentioned. So, Excellencies, colleagues, members of the press, I'm very glad to be here as a new member of the panel of leaders of the Water and Climate Coalition. I think all the other previous speakers have already emphasized how central water is to climate change. And it has made the water cycle also far less predictable, threatening communities, livelihoods, and sustainable development. So global water management must transform to meet the challenges of the present and the future. The World Bank is a solutions bank, and with our new climate change action plan, we are scaling up our support. Our analytical work helps governments and utilities to innovate and improve climate and water systems. Our investments also integrate climate and development, such as creating jobs, increasing food security, and supporting universal, safe access to water and sanitation. So water action is the best answer to climate change. I think we couldn't agree more. And to do so, we need data to enable us to do that, to be able to take the right types of action, as has already been mentioned. As a former Minister of Trade of Indonesia, I know firsthand how climate change hits and how it's felt through water, whether it's droughts or floods that have affected our food production, which led to food shortages, food prices going up, and it hurts the poor the most. And as was mentioned already, some 2 billion people worldwide were affected by floods over the past 20 years. The economic costs are huge, and the human costs are beyond counting. And the same applies to droughts. Much of this cost can be avoided, or at least minimized, by better managing hydroclimate uncertainties. Those risks are enormous, and they are particularly disastrous for fragile and low-income countries that we work with at the World Bank. So they are the most vulnerable at risk, and within many of the developing countries, the poorest and vulnerable populations are also very much at risk. So water is not only at the heart of climate change adaptation, it's also crucial for mitigation, as already has been mentioned. From agriculture to sanitation, greenhouse gas emissions can be massively reduced by smart water and sanitation management. In some countries, we see water-related greenhouse gas emissions making up nearly a quarter of total emissions. But to bring change, we need strong foundations. You can't manage what you don't measure. So information about water quantity, quality, and distribution, currently available as well as future availability, access risks and use, whether it's for food or energy supply, are essential for effective decision-making and negotiations. We need the right kind of policies, regulations, make sure that farmers are not impoverished, and that businesses and private sector also make the right decisions on the use of water. But we have major gaps in water data and in decision-making systems in many, many countries. So today, this coalition seeks to build leadership and action to address the critical gaps in water data. We are part of the coalition because we do not see any way to address climate change successfully without addressing these data gaps. We are already contributing to improving meteorological data through the Systematic Observation Financing Facility, but now it's time to turn to water data. Additionally, the World Bank has been working with countries to build climate resilience for many years. For example, in the Philippines, one of the world's most typhoon-prone countries, the World Bank is helping Metro Manila reduce flood risks by investing in infrastructure, reducing solid waste that clogs storm drains, and relocating people at risk. The project will benefit 1.7 million people who are at risk of flooding. So to conclude, to address water risk, you need the 3 I's. What are the 3 I's? The first one is strong institutions. You need to have the right strong institutions in country. And as the Prime Minister of Hungary mentioned, in relationship to shared water catchment areas, you need strong institutions cross-country as well. The second I is information. You need information to enable effective decisions. This is why the water and climate database are key, as well as the hydrological observatories. The third I is key infrastructure, whether it's government or the private sector. If we can focus on these 3 I's of smart water management, we can really bring change and a lasting change. And we need to start now because, as was already mentioned, time is the most scarce non-renewable resource. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mrs. Pangestu, and thanks really for joining our joint effort with your leadership. And I think we have heard from all the speakers in this first session what the urgency is, but also what the possibilities are that we have now. I think it has become clear that we can resolve this, that if we work together, we have a chance to change the course that we're set on at the moment. So I think this day today is a very hopeful day for me and probably also for the younger generation. And I think we have this responsibility to leave this world a place where future generations will be able to live in peace. And with this, I want to announce the next round of our event today. I would like to thank the speakers on the stage, President, Managing Director, Secretary General. Thank you very much for your interventions. If you want to take seats, we will invite the next speakers to the panel. Thank you. And with that, I would like to invite the Vice Minister, First Deputy Minister for Water and Energy, Mr. Shoimzoda from the Republic of Tajikistan to join us on stage. I would also like to invite Matthias Berninger, Vice President of Bayer, who is representing the business sector in our leaders panel to the stage, and Lindsay Blodgett, who is representing the youth in our panel. Please, will you join us on the stage? We are also trying to connect Mrs. Visser, the Minister for Infrastructure and Water Management from the Netherlands. She should also be connected. We are still working out, I think, how we can have this done with the different platforms that we're using in this COP that is, challenging, but I hope we will resolve this. So the following part of our discussion is on how we can present solutions that involve the business, the private sector, that work for young people and the next generation and how we can all bring this together and synthesize this in concrete plans, in concrete ways, how we address the future from now through the next COP, through the World Water Forum, but of course, as we have heard earlier, especially important for the UN Conference on Water in 2023, which will be our watershed moment for actually making a step change in how we manage water, how we work together, and how we address the issue of adaptation, mitigation, and resilience. So I think we are set now for the second part, and I would like to first invite the first Deputy Minister from Tajikistan. Will you give your remarks, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for the floor. Your Excellency, Mr. Janus Ander, President of Hungary. Your Excellency, Mr. Peter Talas, Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization. Your Excellency, Mary Pangustu, Managing Director of Development Policy and Partnership World Bank Group. And Your Excellency, Oliver Sarmat, Deputy Executive Director, UN Farmer Conversion and Climate Change. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to join to these high-level meetings and address you regarding the action and activities toward the United Nations Conference and midterm review of the water decade in 2023. Our Honorable President, His Excellency Mr. Emmanuel Ramon, has already mentioned it as a strong linkage between water and climate, and the importance of the integrated approach to address them to achieve internationally agreed goals and targets on water and climate resiliency. His Excellency President of Hungary also mentioned the very important figure for all of us, more than 80% of all climate change effects is dependent on the water. Tajikistan is a rich water country, but we're also a climate change affected one. It's clearly mentioned by our President, Honorable President, who has also noted Tajikistan commitments to future activists advocate integrated water and climate agenda at all levels. It's already been included in the priority issues within Tajikistan presidency in the International Fund for Saving the Aral Sea. We include this approach as one of the main topics of the second Dushanbe Water Decade Conference, which will be held in the next year in June. We are going to submit to the UN General Assembly the draft resolution on declaring 2025 is an international year of the glaciers preservation. Yesterday, jointly with the World Meteorological Organization and the UNESCO, we organized the side event dedicated to show and ice melting, snow and ice melting, its impact to our society and economies. And the presentation which I made today by Professor Peter Talas and also Professor John Palmieri, as well as a panel discussion, show it how important this topic in today's agenda. We have taken immediate action to reserve our glaciers in the main source of our life. Excellencies, Tajikistan is associated in the United Nations 2023 Water Conference. With the support of the distinguished partners, the Netherlands, UNDESA and UN Water will do its best to accommodate and promote the integrated water and climate approach in the agenda of this conference beyond. We have already started our collaboration work with the launch of the exclusive cross-sectoral and action-oriented preparatory process to make the conference successful. We have used the platform of the Stockholm and Singapore Water Weeks, the Bonn Conference, Central Asia Conferences, meeting of the UN Water and Group of Friends of Water, stakeholders, meetings of the NAS Water Forum to brief member states to other stakeholders about the UN 2023 Water Conference, and to receive your feedbacks, her expectation and her hopes from this important world gardening. Since this will be the first UN conference on the water after almost 15 years, the expectation of the world community from it is very high. This is an excellent opportunity to all of us to create the watershed moment to raise the profile of the water to the new level of attitude, understanding, and valuing. The conference is hope for many for us, but it's also our responsibility to use into proper manner to make the watershed moment. Let's join our efforts, take commitments, and put action to the ground to make this happen. Just want to add a few words that what we get from the presentation and what we heard from the Excellency President and what the speech of our President, Honorable President about Tajikistan show it, how is the action today important. And it's very historical moment that last 50 years we don't have water conference in the UN agenda. But it's bring us, and all these figures bring us to develop the new ideas how to can reach to our goals. We heard the new formula of 3 I's is also interesting: infrastructure, institution, and information. Yeah, and it's also important. And yes, we all understand it, how it's important, but it's time to action. I wish all for us every success along this way. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Deputy Vice Minister. I would like to ask Matthias Berninger now to give us the view on how we can work together in practical terms to include really all the different aspects. But we were talking about policies and politics a lot, but we also know, and we have seen this during the pandemics, without the private sector, we cannot really change the course we're set on. So Matthias, please give us your view on that.
Yeah, thank you, Johannes. Excellencies, Deputy Minister, Lindsay, I'm very honored to represent the private sector in this coalition. I do agree that the private sector plays a crucial role. When you look at the water topic, one of the things the business community needs to realize is that there is quite a large degree of water blindness in the way we conduct business. Many people say water is everything, but we treat it as if it had the value of nothing. And that is one of the things we need to change at the conference in 2023. And when you look back 50 years, the way I look at these 50 years is the world population has doubled in that time frame. So there is a lot we need to do, a lot we need to address when it comes to the topic of water. We already heard about the role water plays in the area of nutrition. And let's face it, even if we reach an only 1.5 degree warming, between 5 and 10% of crop losses need to be compensated with an even more growing world population needing to consume more at the same time. So this is a huge charge, and too much water or not enough water is one of the main drivers why we face these crop losses. But I also want to focus on the area of health. Cardiovascular pressure is one of the key things caused by heat bulbs. We have seen that in very hot climate in water-stressed regions around the world. The very same populations that suffer from the pandemic, that are more suffering from COVID than most of us, are also affected by heat bulbs. But there is one important demographic that we need to add to the picture, and these are the younger people. Children are very much paying a price with their health as a result of water being in abundance in heat bulbs in water-stressed regions. I firmly believe that we can address this topic through concerted actions across NGOs, the business community, and the political sphere. I also believe that there is a lot of innovation out there to both help crops to be more resilient against droughts or against more extreme rainy weather seasons, but also to reduce the pressure that comes from, for example, the animal husbandry sector, which is not only an issue when it comes to the methane emissions, we heard a lot about that here, but also an issue when it comes to water consumption patterns. So we need to innovate in a direction that reduces our dependency from animal protein. Lastly, this morning in the main session, there was a lot of talk about restoring forests and peatlands. This is very connected to what we are discussing here, and we have seen it in many parts of the world. When you chop down the rainforest, you are not only losing the forest, you are also losing the rain. That's why forest protection is one of the key elements we need to integrate in our work in the Water Leaders Coalition. Again, I'm honored to be part of it, and I'm very confident that there will be many companies that you see currently being active in the climate debate that will also share their perspective and bring their full weight and potential in helping us to solve this huge challenge of the water crisis.
Thanks, Matthias, for pointing our view to the vulnerable and for proposing some ways how we can really connect the different actors and sectors that we need to connect in this joint endeavor. And now I would like to ask Lindsay, you have heard all the boundary conditions, the trajectories that we're set on. You have heard from our speakers where we are and what we want to do. What is the youth view on that, and how can we make sure that youth is integrated into this process?
Thanks, Johannes. It's an honor to represent 40% of the population on this Water and Climate Coalition as a leader. 40% of the population is considered considered children and youth. This includes ages 25 and below, and if you increase that for 35 and below, including young professionals, that's more than 40% of the population. It's therefore of vital importance that this age group is a part of the coalition. At any conference proceeding, political dialogue such as this, and decision to be made around the most precious asset, the input of youth matters. And I'm sure to make that happen. In 2023, the UN General Assembly will host its high-level political forum, which will review SDG 6, safe water and sanitation for all. This conference has been mentioned a few times. It's my duty as a representative of the next generation of water and climate leaders to ensure that the input and voices of youth are well accounted for at this meeting. In order to do this, I get to work with the Secretariat of the WMO to collect the voices of youth from across the world through regional consultation meetings. Youth are not a country, so it's important that we go out and we collect their voices and ideas for innovation. We have already begun to identify water and climate youth-led organizations, and will be mapping them from around the world regions. We will host youth consultation meetings with these youth groups in order to get their feedback and insight on how we are progressing towards SDG 6 and 13. Included in this collection of dialogues and consultations will be the recordings and policy documents from the Conference of Youth, COI, that was held here at COPE on previous days and included youth from over 140 countries. We are in the works of organizing a worldwide youth conference to take place in the fall of 2022 to amplify this dialogue. Through these combined efforts and with the help of the Secretariat, the inputs of youth will be drafted into a statement that will be shared at the 2023 midterm review. I will have the honor to share this statement at the midterm review, a message led by youth and for youth and in collaboration with all who seek to achieve SDGs 6 and 13. As a leader of the Water and Climate Coalition, I will make sure youth are involved in this important policy development and that no one is left behind. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Lindsay, for your words, and thanks for bringing the youth to the table. I think we need to make sure that we are set to develop integrated action now that integrates all the different parts of our population. And yeah, living in Europe, we sometimes forget that in Africa, the number of young people is even much higher, and with the population dynamics that are in some African countries, of course, there's an additional dimension to all the environmental and climate change problem that we are facing. So I have now the sad duty to inform you that we could not fix the connection problems with the Dutch ministry. We have an issue because we were trying to Zoom them in, but then we WebEx them out. So that is the backdrop of modern technology, too many different platforms, and they were somehow not compatible. So I was asked to convey to you at least the message that the Dutch ministry is really behind this coalition, that the Dutch government is behind this coalition. They are fully committed to make the 2023 conference a success, and we also work very closely with them and with different Dutch institutions like the KNMI, the Dutch Weather Service, the IHE Institute for Education in Delft, and further partners like the GCA on bringing also tangible activities into the Water and Climate Coalition. And this is linked also to the 4 activities that our Secretary General has spoken about. This is a bit a sad moment for me to have to say that, but I can only, of course, convey this message to you from the Dutch government, and I am sure that the Dutch government will be represented in the first physical meeting of our leaders that will take place in Budapest on the kind invitation of the President of Hungary on December 1st. So there, hopefully, we will not have technical problems because we will be analogous and physically all there, hopefully. So I thank the speakers here up on the floor. I would really like to apologize for our Dutch colleagues because I was excited to welcome also Mrs. Visser because she has also taken office recently and has joined us new within the panel. So it would have been a real pleasure to see her online today. But we will make sure that this will not happen the next time. So with that, I would like to ask for one question or one comment from the floor if we have one, but we are running a little bit behind the schedule and we also need to vacate the room within the given time. So is there one really urgent intervention from the floor? Thank you for for that. We can then, I think, close our session here. We have heard from our leaders what needs to be done. We have been presented solutions that we can apply to the problems that we have been shown. And I think this is a very hopeful day for all of us because with the launch and with the taking speed of this Water and Climate Coalition, we will be able to bring a step change into the process around climate and water. So thanks a lot for your attention, and I hope we will see you all again in this joint endeavor. And for the next big event for the water and climate leaders is the 1st December in Budapest. Thank you very much.